he was a, again, and I've been blessed. He came from, his dad was a veteran. He was obviously a veteran. He was very proud of that. I'm very proud, that he was somebody that we went to the VA, when he was fighting his cancer and stuff like that. And they were so good to him, and it was just the service and in the honor that they paid him, was incredible. I mean, it was good to see him be a proud veteran. He's always, he just didn't wear that on his sleeve. He wasn't one of these guys that walked around with a Vietnam hat or a jacket or anything like that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just that he was a father. He was, he was a great friend to so many. And, and he was just the dude. I mean, he was the dude, and he was, and it's, there's no better way to describe him, but he had that, there's obviously, like you talked about your uncle and, walking from Italy to Switzerland, you're dropping this inner city kid from Buffalo, New York into the jungles of Vietnam. And he was a war hero. He did stuff that, none of us know what we're capable of until we're put in these situations, and he did so many amazing things. And you read these letters from these generals and you're just like, who is this person? But I mean, that's, he did what he had to do, but when it came time to, how he was going to live his life, he was always a proud veteran. He obviously came back and he struggled. My mom would tell stories. When I was a little kid, we went to the redwood forest and we're walking around, and my dad was in this redwood forest for about 20 minutes and he broke out into a cold sweat and had to get the heck out of there. Sure. And she always attributed that to like what we know as today as PTSD. I'm lucky enough to have my son Kyler, served in the Army. He dealt with, he was stationed in Colorado Springs, Fort Carson. He had a few friends, who had come back from war, who had, had battled PTSD, had a few friends, unfortunately, who had ended their own lives. And, and he wore that on his heart, when he got out of the Army, he was just, it really affected him watching his friends go through this, to the point where he was kind of a skeleton of himself. And I've watched him rebuild himself, and, just becoming this amazing man, getting ready to get married in June. He's the stepfather. He'll be a stepfather to a beautiful 8-year-old boy, Kason. Nice. My first grandchild. And, and it's just these veterans, and these guys that what they're capable of when they got to go through stuff. And usually it's when they're so young, you just can't help but honor people like that. I know,